Meeting 4 already, wow. Good morning. Senate Standing Committee on Education will come to order. This is meeting 4. As you can tell, this is not like appropriations and revenue. We start fashionably late around here, maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes late. But that's right. We're close. We're close to being on time. Please call the roll.
Senator Carroll. Here. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Here. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Rawlings.
Present.
Senator Reed.
Here.
Senator Thomas.
Here.
Senator Williams.
Here.
Senator Wilson.
Here.
Senator Wise.
Here.
Vice Chair Titchener.
Here.
Chair West.
Here. We have a quorum. We are duly constituted to conduct business. As usual, we'll read the Education Committee rules. Please silence your cell phones. No signs are allowed in the committee room. If you want to speak for or against a measure, you need to sign up at the back of the room. Do any members have any introductions of special guests? Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as always, I have several of my teachers from Fayette County today. I have my teachers from Frederick Douglass High School, from Tates Creek Middle School, from Edith J. Hayes Middle School, from Cardinal Valley Elementary, from Mill Creek Elementary, and from the MLK Academy. I would ask all of them to stand and be made to feel welcome this morning.
Yes, Senator Thomas always has his posse in attendance every meeting. Any other members have introductions or special guests? Seeing none, we'll get right down to business. First on the docket this morning is SB 2, an act relating to salaries of school administrators by Senator Julie Rocky Adams. She's at the table and ready to proceed. You know the deal, Senator. Make sure your green light's on, state your name for the record, and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Julie Rocky Adams. I represent Senate District 36. And before you today is Senate Bill 2, which is a simple bill. It reflects a core principle. Compensation decisions should align with classroom priorities while still respecting local government governance and flexibility. This legislation establishes a clear, reasonable standard without eliminating existing waiver options already permitted under Kentucky law. So the purpose of Senate Bill 2 is to ensure that when school districts consider pay raises, that classroom teachers are not left behind. Specifically, the bill prohibits school administrators from receiving a percentage pay increase greater than the average percentage pay increase provided to classroom teachers in that district. It reinforces fairness in compensation practices across school systems, and it reflects the value of classroom instruction in district-level decision-making. What this bill does not do, it does not eliminate local control over compensation decisions. It does not cap salaries or mandate specific pay raises. And it does not prevent districts from rewarding leadership or compensation for increasing of responsibilities, provided that those decisions remain balanced and fair to teachers. And let me tell you why this matters. Classroom teachers are the center of student learning and school success. When compensation decisions favor administrative growth over classroom instruction, it can undermine morale, trust, and long-term workforce stability. Senate Bill 2 is designed to promote fairness and transparency, support teacher recruitment and retention, and reinforce public confidence in education funding decisions. Our teachers should not be asked to fall behind while administrators move ahead. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will take any questions.
Thank you. Senator Thomas has a question.
Thank you, Senator Adams, for this bill. And I want you to know I read it this morning. My only question is this. I mean, I think the bill is clear, and I don't have any problems with it. I support what you said. But obviously, it's important to try to retain talent. We do that in any organization, whether we're talking about Fortune 500 companies, or in sports leagues, major sports leagues across this country, or in any endeavor. If you have talent, and that talent threatens to go somewhere, you should want to take time or make time to try to retain that talent to the best you can. So I would take it, given what you said, that this bill would not prevent a school board from renegotiating a salary of a superintendent if that superintendent was being sought after by other communities. Am I right about that?
If that district wants to maintain that superintendent and they feel that a funding decision is important in that retention, then they have that waiver option within this bill to make that decision. But that decision will be transparent and everyone will know that that's what's happening.
Thank you.
Sure.
Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This Senator Rocky Adams, this bill.
It's a simple little bill, Jimmy.
It is. It really is. Thank you for that. I appreciate simple little bills. But this doesn't have anything to do with contracts. This is if a yearly raise is declared for educators, then a superintendent could receive no more raise than what was declared for those teachers but it has nothing to do with the contract.
Correct.
Thank you. Very good bill. Thank you. Simple. It's very simple. Thank you.
Senator Givens.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Senator Rocky Adams, thanks for your leadership on this. I had an interesting conversation that I shared with you about a week and a half or so ago. A superintendent that's retired now, but I have great respect for him and his leadership in the school system over years. And he was a little surprised that we even had to do this, because he said, listen, every contract I ever signed had this written in by the board. We benefit so much from the work that teachers do on the front line day in and day out, and we appreciate the administrators that support them. But let's not kid ourselves. The rubber meets the road where those teachers are in the classroom meeting those kids day in and day out, and I applaud all of those teachers. And thank you for leading on this legislation that effectively says whatever you're going to increase an administrator's pay, you've got to increase that teacher's pay by that much or more. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Senator Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Adams always come from this from a rural perspective, and sorry for that. I'm going to quote a very wise senator who told me years ago that every bill we pass has unintended consequences. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for that. And I'm concerned about the unintended consequences for rural communities. I understand what you're trying to accomplish, and I applaud that and I support that. I just know this is the vehicle to do it. And certainly we want to support our teachers, lift them up as much as possible. But I was truly impressed by the report we received. I can't remember, it was the last interim session or the one before, from our Professional Standards Review Board. In their study said the biggest determinant whether a school is going to be successful or not was the principal. So I think we're focused maybe too much on superintendents and not enough on principals. In rural Kentucky, it's become an increasing challenge to find that talent, even more so to keep that talent. So I'm concerned. I know a process is in place, particularly with the waiver, but how timely is that? If in a rural community, you may be losing an award-winning principal to a larger school system because there's more money, can that decision be made on a short term, and will it be acted upon in a very short term? Because folks aren't going to wait around to do that. And I think it really limits the superintendent's ability to try to retain their personnel and keep them. So that's a concern that I have.
Right, and I understand that, but that would be up to the Kentucky Department of Education to turn that around pretty quickly in the within the waiver process. I don't know how quickly they turn around those waivers. That would be a KDE question. But to your point, we need to value that classroom. We need to value that school. We need to value that interaction. And I just think that we have gotten away, particularly during COVID, we've gotten away from that focus on the classroom, focus on that school. And so I think this is a nice reset for us. And I think it emphasizes what we need to emphasize, and that is those individuals who interact with our kids, who have our kids grow and learn. And I think this is just a really important reset for us right now at this period in time.
Again, I agree with you, but I don't want to discount the value of the principal either.
Absolutely.
You know, a good principal virtually lives at that school. Matter of fact, my wife, she's retired, but she's doing a leave right now for another teacher, and they have a new principal. And she's so impressed that for the academic team, which hardly ever gets any attention at all, he's there at every academic meet. And this is a young man, got a family, lives in a neighboring county, and not only does he attend, but he's reading the questions in the academic meet. And the hours you had to put into being an effective school superintendent, I don't think is really understood. It maybe isn't reflected in this, but again, if you've got great talent in a rural system, you want to keep that talent. And I'm concerned that we're going to limit ourselves in our ability to do that because, urban areas don't live in a vacuum. And anything that happens in the big city, it eventually filters down in rural Kentucky, and the ramifications of that can be quite substantial at times. And with my healthcare background, I saw it frequently that when there's a shortage of nurses, then the Louisville hospitals would increase their salaries, come up with novel pay methods, and I would lose nurses because they could make more in a weekend in Louisville than they could a whole week at my hospital. But that's the kind of issues we deal with here. I don't want to see that there's an increase in salaries in the urban area that we can't react to that quick enough in the rural areas. And the challenge is real, so that's my concern.
Yep, and I think that's the beauty of this bill. How simple it is that it still retains that local control, and so that district can determine what it needs to do in order to keep the personnel that it wants to, while focusing on the classroom.
Well, again, my concern is how timely can that decision be made, and I know that goes back to the board or the Kentucky Department of Education, but state government doesn't move quickly.
I know.
And if you're dealing with a lot of these decisions, I just wonder how timely that process is going to be, but we can talk more about that later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. I'm going to respond here in a second to Senator Meredith. I think I have a good answer for you, but I think Senator Givens is going to chime in first. Go ahead.
Chairman, you may have the same answer that I do, but Senator Meredith, thank you for your concern because we do need to keep talent in our rural communities, and I appreciate your concern there. The bill language clarifies or speaks specifically to the waiver process in accordance with KRS 156-161, and I've got this pulled up, and it is a very little over 2 pages is what the statute is, but it's a very standardized process that the board uses to request the waiver, and it involves the state board having promulgated regs to have a standardized waiver request form. This is something that my understanding is it's expedited very quickly. My understanding is it's expedited very quickly by the state school board, and those requests happen very rapidly, or are approved or denied very rapidly based on the information I see here. So I appreciate your concern, but I think we do have a good mechanism in place to address it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The Senator Meredith process is pretty smooth as far as I know. The only difference Senator Adams brings to the situation is that it's now transparent.
Yep.
Right. So if they want additional pay for that particular principal, it may take 30 to 60 days, something like that, and everyone will know what it is. Mm-hmm. So just added transparency. Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Rocky Adams, I want to thank you for bringing this bill. I understand the sentiment behind it. I agree. I don't think it's going to cause any particular problems, but I think it really brings attention to the problem that we have in funding our school system in general. And I think the comments made regarding rural districts as well as urban districts share in varying degrees the same type of problem. My concern is that we have not sufficiently funded our school systems, and I hold to that. And I think this is not inconsistent with that. I think this is consistent with that, but I think we're going to have to do something bigger, at least in my opinion, in addition to this, to make sure that we fully fund our system, our school system, and I think this is a step in the right direction.
Senator Williams?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So my understanding is that for the normal raise for a principal or teacher, I mean, if it's just an average like everybody else is getting, it happens automatically, just like it. So this
Yes.
does not restrict
Correct.
the normal process, right?
Correct.
And my understanding with the state board is, I think there used to be a problem because they met quarterly with some of these delays, but I think they're moving more to, for other reasons, to monthly meetings. And so the kinds of delays that we've seen in the past, from my understanding, likely we won't see in the future because of the monthly meetings. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding, yes.
Yeah, so I'm just, so the exceptions is transparent, and the normal raises, we don't even need to go to an exception.
Correct.
So, great job, thank you.
To put a bow on that, Senator Williams, the board used to meet quarterly and they now meet monthly. So they're meeting every 30 days. Any other members have questions on this piece of legislation? Seeing none, do we have a motion on the bill? We have a motion from Senator Reed. Second. We have a second from Senator Wilson. Please call the roll.
Senator Carroll. Aye. Senator Givens. Aye. Senator Higdon. Aye. Senator Meredith.
Let's play my vote, Mr. Chair. if I may.
Please proceed.
I'm a yes today, but I still got concerns, but you and I can talk about that, Senator, later on, but I'm not fully convinced that this doesn't have some adverse impact on rural Kentucky. But thank you.
Senator Neal. Senator Rawlings.
May I explain my vote?
Please
Mr. Chair?
proceed.
Some years ago, when Japan was experiencing a lot of economic development, I heard a story that the CEO could make no more than 9 times what the very lowest level person could make. So I definitely support this bill. I like the context and manner and the thoughtfulness for which it's done. So I'm a yes vote.
Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Williams.
Aye.
Senator Wilson.
Aye.
Senator Wise. Chair West.
Aye. Senate Bill 2 passes unanimously with favorable expression. Thank you, Senator Adams, for this good piece of legislation. Up next on the agenda, we have SB 4, an act relating to school leadership. That is my bill, so my co-chair will take over for a minute, and I'll present from down there.
Mr. Chair, if you could just introduce yourself for the record along with your guest. Please pull the microphone close and make sure the green light is on.
Senator West, I represent the 27th District.
Bob Lawson, Superintendent, Henderson County Schools.
Ashley Watts, President and CEO, Kentucky Chamber of Commerce.
I believe there is a committee substitute.
There is.
Would you like to explain what that change is briefly, or?
Absolutely. It's a small change. The Kentucky Chamber of Commerce is included. They do some work in this bill, and they asked that be the Kentucky Chamber Foundation because that's where the money would flow from. So so one word change. We changed from Kentucky Chamber of Commerce to Kentucky Chamber Foundation. That's the sub.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt the sub? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. The sub has been adopted. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What you have before you is a new direction for Kentucky in principal leadership. I did not pay Senator Meredith anything this morning. He kind of teed it up this bill up for us with the previous conversation on Senate Bill 2. The genesis of this bill is we, as legislators, especially members on this committee, we go to a lot of conferences and we digest a lot of information. And in my role as chair, I was at an SREB conference a few years ago where they did a thorough study of the southeastern United States, and they were looking at primarily teacher shortage. What are the reasons for teacher shortage and what's behind all that? And in that process, they did a thorough review they had a series of questions for teachers, did a lot of teachers, and I expected the normal response, a teacher, poor discipline, lack of pay, the what was happening in the building, the atmosphere in the building. But the number one reason that teachers were leaving the profession was leadership in their building. And so that kind of floored me. I didn't know that. And so that got some wheels turning and came back to the state and what are we doing in Kentucky to address principal leadership? And what we found was it was kind of a hodgepodge approach. You're required to take your continuing education, and there's nothing really solid and mandated, and there's not a real solid flow. Some people were doing good work, some people were just floating. And so this is an effort to organize that into a clear, concise system. This is not a perfect bill, but this is a framework. And the ultimate goal is to have the premier principal leadership program in the United States. That's the ultimate goal. And so we've made an effort at that with this bill today. And I'll go through the bill really quickly. It's not a very long bill. It sets up the framework. Then I'll hand it off to my guests. It sets up a mandated 5-year program. Okay, the first 2 years are taken care of by KDE. They handle that. They set up their own principal leadership program, and the first 2 years are basically Principal 101. All the new principals go into that program. What does it take in Kentucky to be a good principal? All the stuff, basic things you need to know, because you're not taught everything you need to know in a four-year institution. And so, or even if you're a teacher, you don't know what it means to be a principal. And so it goes through all the things you need to know, security of the building, how to manage human resources, on and on, all those normal things that the principal needs to know. As part of that, that will also include a principal mentorship program. And so some of that's been done in the past, but this is an organized program where we team up a new principal with an existing principal, and they check in on them. Also, as part of that, we are attempting to bring in maybe some retired principals to be part of that program and get retired principals involved back in the system and share some of their knowledge with the new principals. That's 2 years. That's 2 years of intensive study and leadership programming by KDE. Third year we call it a 5-year, but the third year is really kind of a gap year. You're not required. There's nothing in this program that's new. It's kind of you're on your own. Okay, it allows you to digest what you've learned in year 1 and year 2. Principals have continuing education requirements, so they're still required to do their normal continuing education. They are allowed to take advantage of new premier leadership programs from a menu if they want to, but it's kind of a breather year. Take a break. Fourth year, we get into a public-private partnership with the Chamber. The Chamber has, and Ashley will speak about this in a moment, the Chamber has agreed they want to be involved with this, and they are currently doing a lot of good work with Truist. The Chamber and Truist have actually testified in this committee about the good work they've been doing for many, many years. Year 4 would be the principal goes into Truist program or Chamber approved program, and it's an off-site program that's proven tremendously successful, and we're going to hear some testimony on that in a second. And so Truist brings facilities, leadership, staff, The chamber is bringing money to the game, skin to the game, and then hopefully the state will bring a portion. And so that's the 4th year. 5th year, we move into a system of high-level leadership training. And so this will be the job of KDE to set up a series of metrics. What does it take to be an approved trainer, a company or university, to be on their approved list? And so they're going to come up with pretty severe metrics to be approved, but you'll be required to choose from that list in the 5th year. You need to take your leadership training from one of these approved providers. And we already have several people wanting to be approved provider. Western Kentucky University has an excellent program. They want to be approved provider. Kentucky Association of School Administrators has a program. They want to be an approved provider. So there's already people chomping at the bit to be on that approved provider list. And so as you can see, it's a mandated 5-year flow where our principals will move through a coordinated program, and hopefully by the end of year 5, they're good to go, and then we go on from there. The question may be what happens after that. What we found through study on this is our normal shelf life for a principal in Kentucky is about 5 years. So this program will pretty much go throughout the useful, or I should say the lifespan of the average lifespan of a principal in Kentucky. Our goal is to expand and extend that lifespan for principals. If we can get a 6-year average lifespan or a 7-year average lifespan, keep these principals in schools longer, that will give a greater pool of candidates to school administrators, and hopefully greatly enhance the quality of the principals in the classroom. So that's the short version of this bill. Definitely open to any questions on this. And I'm going to hand it over. I'm going to start with Ashley and then let you come in.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator West. Thank you for members of committee. I'm Ashley Watts, President and CEO of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. And a special thanks to Chairman West for believing in and advocating for this program and wanting to expand this opportunity to all of our Kentucky principals. So just a quick history about the Kentucky Chamber Foundation Leadership Institute for School Principals. Back in 2011, the Chamber started this program because we knew the importance of treating principals like the CEOs of their schools. And we realized that there really was not professional development in Kentucky that could train them as such. So since 2011, we have partnered with the Truist Leadership Institute, and the Kentucky Chamber Foundation has sent 641 Kentucky school principals across 112 counties through the Leadership Institute for School Principals, which in turn has impacted 3 million Kentucky school students. This program has been fully funded by Kentucky businesses, sponsoring local principals in their area to go through this program. This investment, since the inception of it, equates over $4.4 million by Kentucky businesses into Kentucky school principals. I am sure each of you and in your districts, you know several principals that have gone through this program. And I am sure if you talk to any of them, they will tell you that this was truly a life-changing experience. They are being able to be trained like the executives they are, and in turn come away as better principals, better leaders, better community leaders, all to the benefit of the teachers, the schools, and of course, ultimately the students of Kentucky. The core components these principals learn through this year-long program are leadership psychology, self-awareness, building effective teams, strategic school leadership, and communication and influence while receiving year-long executive level coaching and applied practice. So what I'm so proud about this program is that this is a proven program. It is no longer just qualitative informations or stories that we hear from principals about how much they enjoyed the program. We can now quantify that principals who have gone through this program show measurable improvement in overall school performance. And Dr. Lawson with Henderson County Schools is going to tell you a little bit more what this program has meant to his district.
Good morning, and thank you again for having me. Thank you, Senator West. And thank you, Senator Meredith. As Senator West explained there, you really teed this up well. You did a great job outlining the day of a school principal and the great need for us to invest in them and help them in their leadership. And even in your explanation, there are so much more that a principal does in the school day, and they're under immense pressure, from test scores to demands of the community to the number of hours they work, working on curriculum development, testing schedules, athletic events, you name it. Most principals probably put in between 60 and 80 hours a week. And we expect them to deliver on results. We expect them to deliver on school culture. And so I so much appreciate Senator West and his efforts to invest in that person who we expect and want so much out of. The reason I believe so much in this Leadership Institute for School Principals and the partnership with Truist and the Kentucky Chamber is the impact it had on me personally. And as superintendent of Henderson County Schools, we have 13 schools, and as of this year, we've sent 22 principals through this program. It is the #1 leadership initiative that we do for our principals, and we take pride in doing this at the local level too. It's ongoing at the local level in terms of our part in developing our principals, but in terms of the investment and things that we just simply we can't create the experience that Truist and Leadership Institute for School Principals does. First and foremost, because it pours into the very person that we need to be pouring into our students, to the staff, in the community, and the person that we're putting right in the middle of all those high expectations and demands. It gives us time and energy to pour into them in a way that helps them learn themselves best, to help them learn about what their triggers are, what their strengths are, what their success scripts are, any biases they might have. It's life-changing. The quote we often use is, it's the best opportunity to get to know yourself. And once they know themselves, they lead themselves better, and they can lead others better. But it starts by pouring into the person that we want the most out of. As Ms. Watts mentioned, we did a case study in Henderson County Schools a few years back, and what we found was schools who were led by principals who had been through the Leadership Institute for School Principals were outperforming schools with leaders who had not been through that Leadership Institute for School Principals. But it's more than just test scores. As Senator West mentioned, oftentimes it can be the case that educators could leave their profession or leave their school based on the school principal. But when you combine that with what Mr. Meredith said and what is being expected and put on the principal, you could almost see why. The principal's under such immense pressure and such high expectations and has to be the expert at so many things. On top of that, at some point they need to go home and be good for their families, which is, we know their faith and their families are their top priorities, and then the schools. So in terms of the investment that Senator West is asking you for, we couldn't be in greater support in Henderson County Schools. In fact, it's my belief that now many of our central office leaders who were once principals have been through this leadership program, and nothing has changed. Folks that went through this program 8 or 10 years ago still say that was the life-changing program that changed my leadership. And now that we've built some generations of leaders that have been through this program, I believe that's one of the reasons that we are a high-performing school district, a district that I believe has sustainable leadership. And I think if you research us, you'll find that too. And we've been voted the best place to work the past 4 consecutive years in Henderson County. And amongst many other initiatives, I think that the Leadership Institute for School Principals has had as great or greater effect on those results as any. Thank you.
If I could say one further thing, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
I'm only going to disagree with Dr. Lawson on one thing. I'm not asking you at all for an investment. I'm just asking you to pass this bill. I'd be remiss. I'm going to be asking A&R Committee for an investment, and I didn't mention that at the beginning. But just to be clear, if this bill passes, I will be advocating for funding to fund the money required to see this through. And I'm going to go through that very briefly. We've spoken with KDE, and they say it will take about $2.25 million to do their component year 1 and year 2. I'm going to be asking for dollars in year 4 to do the state match. Truist would bring facilities trainers. Chamber would bring a component. Do you want to comment on how much that amount is?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Senator West. So the numbers we have to make sure that our numbers show that we would be able to train about 150 school principals if this bill were to pass. Currently, we train between 40 and 50 a year, 100% through private donation. I've probably talked to some of you all about businesses in your community that want to support a principal, and that is how we have done it since 2011. And so what we would be looking at is a private investment from the Chamber of Commerce through local Kentucky businesses of around $864,000 a year. That is what we raise now. We are going to raise this in perpetuity. We will continue to raise that money from the private investments in the business community to pour into their local school principals. And then the state match to be able to train 150 school principals a year would be a little bit about $1.8 million. And so that would be kind of the public-private partnership model that we've envisioned to basically be able to triple the program that we currently do for around 50 school principals to expand that to 150.
Thank you. And so you're skipping ahead to year 5. Year 5, I would envision a stipend. So each principal would receive a stipend to pay for the education that they choose off of that approved list. And so, as you can see, the goal is to put our money where our mouth is. You know, we say we want principal leadership. We say we want a high level of principal leadership. But I will be advocating for funds to go along with this. And to be honest with the committee, frankly, this does not work without funding, without proper funding. If we're able to do that, then it takes a lot of pressure. It helps with district finances, takes a lot of pressure off of them, and opens up a lot of new avenues. And so I'll just leave it there, Madam Chair. That's a thorough review of SB 4.
Thank you. We do have a few questions, but since we're talking about funding, let me just go ahead and ask this. You mentioned year 1 and 2, 4 and 5, and year 3, they're on their own. Are any costs incurred in year 3 on the principal, or?
No, it's the normal process as it occurs now. And so the district will, maybe you can talk about that more. What do districts currently do as far as funding principals as they go? The district usually, I think, pays all the cost, okay. but it's a menu. So some of it maybe is online. Some you have to go to the co-ops. Maybe you can comment on that.
Without having that in front of me, I'd have to research that. I don't want to give you an answer I'm not certain of. But the part I've always appreciated is kind of the public-private partnership that involves Truist and things like that. So I'll get those numbers back to you, Senator West, but without having that in front of me, I probably wouldn't want to talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
But to answer your question clearly, it's exactly what they're doing now. It doesn't change anything that's currently occurring.
Okay, Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator West, thank you for bringing this. And of course, the Chamber is always a good partner. They're always doing great work. But it underscores I have a statement and a question, Madam Chair, if it's okay. It underscores it's necessary to have training and great modeling and all the elements that go into that. And it costs money. And I think it's well worth the investment to do something in this area. Leadership is absolutely key. There's no question about it. But I was really interested also in the testimony of Dr. Lawson, because that was testimony of lived experience in terms of this programmatic approach. How long was this in your system, if I may?
Well, this is my 6th year as superintendent, and I know we've had it at least with the superintendent prior to me, which was she was there for 6 years as well. So we've had this in our district at least 10 to 12 years.
If I may, are you aware of any other similar programs in Kentucky, or is this just in Henderson?
I'm not aware of any program that compares to the Leadership Institute for School Principals.
And lastly,
Senator Neal.
Yes.
This is available to any principal in Kentucky.
Okay.
So he's just testifying about his experience in Henderson. This particular program he's discussing is open to any principal across the state, Jefferson County, Fayetteville, wherever.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make this short, but I had a different understanding. If you bear with me just a second.
Yes, please proceed.
So this is already available across Kentucky?
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
Yeah, so we have operated this program through the Kentucky Chamber Foundation since 2011. And so we have sent almost 700 school principals since that time through this program, which is a year-long intensive program. 112 counties have been represented, and so we're trying to tick off those last remaining counties as well. But Senator Neal, we've sent dozens, I'm sure, of principals in Jefferson County through this program. So we as the Chamber have run this as a private program since 2011. And with this bill, it would just expand that opportunity to be able to kind of increase our capacity from 50 principals a year to 150, so that all principals have the opportunity to go through this program.
Last questions, and the outcomes are consistent with what Dr. Lawson is referring to.
100%. We actually have some data that we could share with this committee as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see
The
that.
good thing about being in existence since 2011 is that we do have quantitative information. The test scores have improved, retention has improved among teachers, and so exactly what Dr. Lawson has said, we have seen that across the 112 counties where these principals have gone through this leadership program.
This is a no-brainer to me. Thank you.
Senator Neal, could I respond to Senator Neal briefly?
Please,
Just to put a bow on it. Our thought behind this was, rather than reinvent the wheel and do a new pilot project for something, new and innovative, they've been doing this pilot project for 12 years.
Yeah.
And it's proven to be tremendously successful. So why reinvent the wheel? And let's focus on something that works.
Congratulations.
All right. Senator Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for the presentation. Getting into the next level of being a superintendent, are there aspects of this program in the latter years that address that? Should there be a year 6 that is optional that a principal could go into to help prepare to be a superintendent, or is that a separate program altogether?
I'm going to start and then hand it off to the expert. First comment, there's one thing that we know this program will do. It will build your pool of future superintendents, right? And so that pool of future superintendents will be better trained, they'll be better leaders in the classroom, and theoretically better leaders if they ever step into the role of a superintendent. But I'm going to hand it off to him for more maybe in-depth discussion.
Thank you, Senator Carroll. I appreciate your question. I appreciate your interest in continuing the development of the principals. And as Senator West said many times, so many of our principals will become assistant superintendent and then maybe superintendent altogether. And just as I kind of scaffolded up off of Mr. Meredith's expectations of the principal, that doesn't change as superintendent. In fact, it may be greater. And we've had a lot of discussion earlier about superintendents and those kinds of things. And so I think I speak for all superintendents when I say the more we can invest in them being supported and trained and helped. What's so unique about this program is it begins by pouring into them as a person. So much is expected of our educators. So much is expected of our educational leaders. And so if you all have an interest past this to more discussion around how, I'll tell you this, if I could go back through this program again, I would welcome that opportunity. And I appreciate you asking that question.
So it doesn't really get into taking that next step, because I have no doubt there are additional responsibilities that being a principal is one thing, being a superintendent is in most aspects entirely different and much bigger.
So duly noted. Senator Carroll, here's the beauty of this program. It can be ever changing with our oversight. And so this sets up the 5-year kind of skeleton, okay? KDE would develop the framework for the 5-year the 5th year trainings. And so theoretically, part of their requirements, they could include being a superintendent. Mm-hmm. And so that's not developed yet. The bill has to pass first. And so that they're going to develop that framework. And so that could be, KD is here today. I'm sure they're listening. They could do that.
I think a 6th year would probably, in that, not make it mandatory, but for those who are looking down the road for taking that next step, because not every principal will want to want to do that. A larger headache, I'm sure, in most cases. So, but great program, great idea, and I think the impacts of this across the state will be far-reaching.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Wise.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you all for the presentation. Central West fully supportive. I'm co-sponsor of the bill. I think we've seen some studies that have came out before with OEA and others, and we talk about schools that see a great turnaround. We see increased test scores. It's all based on the leadership within those school walls, what our teachers are doing, our principals are doing, leading, and then ultimately the superintendents. Many of us, myself included, have participated in the Principal for a Day programs across the Commonwealth, and I'm sure those of us up here have done it more than once in our various districts we represent. One of the things I think will be interesting with this, and Ashley, it may be pointed to what you are already doing with your program, but is there anything in terms of a session or training where those in this cohort could also see a little bit on the legislative side of things? Because how much also, when we go and we watch and we observe, and we appreciate our principals, there's many superintendents I see back there in the back today that make their trips up here to Frankfort, and maybe they never did that until stepping into that superintendent role. And it may not be a bad thing if KDE looked to put something in that 5 or maybe a 6-year plan that has something about the legislative process, maybe having legislators come in and speak. There's a whole lot of things I think we could do with this. And Dr. Lawson, I'm sure you've made some trips up here before, and maybe that could be a suggestive idea that maybe we could work on. Thank you all.
Senator Wise, are you saying you want to see more superintendents and principals come to Frankfort and visit with us?
I think I see plenty of them up here many times. I welcome them all when they come by my office.
As what Senator Carroll stated, KD is here. They're listening. I'm sure that sounds like an excellent idea. As this morphs, if we as legislators have ideas through administrative reg, they'll be able to add and tweak and implement if we have a good idea. On the flip side, if something isn't working and it's a terrible idea and it just isn't quite working, then they can remove that from the reg. So
Can I say something real quick, Senator Wise? And Senator Wise was kind enough a couple years ago to join us at our Leadership Institute for School Principals graduation. And so we do have about 700 alumni throughout the state that we kind of keep within our chamber family. They have gone through the program. We stay in close contact with them. As you all know, the chamber is very active here in this building. And so I think it's a great connection that we can absolutely try to nurture a little bit more, especially with our existing alumni network that we already have a close contact with. So we can kind of help brainstorm ways that we can connect more on that piece, because I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you all.
And our last question, Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 questions, if I may.
Briefly, we do have one more bill to hear today.
About the Kentucky Education or Chamber Foundation, I'm just doing the math here, and there are over 3,000 public schools here in Kentucky. Okay, I don't know how many of those schools each year require new principals, but you want to go from 50 to 150, and that sounds wonderful. But would this cover every new principal? This is my first question. Would this cover every new principal who would come on board during a school year here in Kentucky? I mean, I don't know what that number is. Are we talking about 160 or are we talking about 140? But my question is, this is an excellent program. And Senator West, you may recall that you and I talked about this back in September. We were at the Southern Regional Education Board meeting down in Atlanta, and you said you're going to do this. And this is a great idea. No question, it's a great idea. But would your foundation be able to train every new principal that came on board here in Kentucky?
To jump in, if you don't mind, Senator Thomas, to hand it off to Ashley. The math that we have, I have to vet this, make sure it's accurate. We have good education staff. We think the number of principals in Kentucky is around 1,200, and maybe I can get with committee staff and get a number for you. Our thinking is that the chamber would be able, if you have a cohort of 150, they would be able to handle new principals. Another beauty of this is as new principals come in, that cohort stays together. So they theoretically develop a bond and a relationship with those other principals that are in the same cohort. But didn't mean to steal your thunder. But
No, you
tell
covered.
me if I'm correct.
No, Senator West, you covered it great, and thank you, Senator Thomas, for that question. We feel like from the Kentucky Chamber Foundation, we absolutely kind of triple the size of our program. We've been doing this program since 2011, and we think we can scale it to make sure that we, give that opportunity to every Kentucky school principal. And I've often thought throughout the years when I see that there's 700 school principals that have gone through this, that have we saturated the market? Are we going to run out of principals to train? And that's never the case, because the good thing is that a lot of these principals, like Dr. Lawson, move on to go be superintendents, deputy superintendents. They go on to work at KDE. So we've never had a shortage of principals who have wanted to apply for this program. So working with Senator West and his team, as well as KDE, we do feel like 150 is about the right number. This program, and I think we mentioned it, it's really important. We like to train these principals in their first few years as principals. We want to make sure that we give them that training as they're just starting off. And so 150 a year in year 4, we feel like is the appropriate number through working with KDE and also Senator West staff.
Okay. And then, Senator West, my second question, you and I both being lawyers, is to make sure that there's no confusion as we go forward with this bill. On page 1, where you talk about there is hereby established the Principal Leadership Development Practicum to provide all new principals. I was wondering, would it not be better to say first-time principals? Because you could be a new principal at a elementary school, and then 6 or 7 years later be a new principal at a high school. And I don't want to I don't want this to be redundant. I think once you go through the training once, again, it sounds like an excellent program. You should be more than capable to handle any principalship, regardless of the size of the school or the nature of the school. So I was just thinking that maybe first time might be a better term to use. And that's just the lawyer in me.
That's okay. Yeah. I'm a real estate lawyer, so I'm a little different. Maybe I don't, not as good, but I'm open to any change that as long as it carries out the intent. The intent is if you're a brand new principal, you start out with KDE in year 1 and you flow through the 5 years. We know there's going to be hiccups because we know there are going to be principals that they're a principal and then they quit and they move on to another district, and then they maybe come back in year 4 in a different district. And so the idea is to do our best to keep them on track. If they've been an elementary principal and they move to the high school, technically our view is they're not a new principal. They'd be in a different cohort. And so the ultimate goal is to get everybody through this 5-year. And so however that works best, we're open to it. Whatever you want to, however we want to wordsmith this, I'm fine with it, but that's the ultimate goal. Yeah.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I think this is just a great bill. It's going to help in so many ways, and so much of what we see in leadership, it trickles down to the environment within that school system, and it's going to be a great measure to improve student achievement across the board. So thank you for your work on this. Any questions that I have, I'll save for later because we got one more bill to hear and 4 minutes left in committee. With no other questions, and we need a motion on the bill. All right. Please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Givens.
Aye.
Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Rawlings.
Aye.
Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson.
Aye.
Senator Wise. Chair West.
Bill passes unanimously with favorable expression. Thank you so much. Senator Janine, if you want to go ahead and take your seat, we'll just move right along. While the chair is coming back to his seat, would you go ahead and introduce yourself for the record?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Matt Deneen, State Senator for District 10.
Okay, is there a committee sub on this? All right, we have a committee sub. Can I get a motion to adopt? There's a motion. Do I have a second? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Senator Deneen, please proceed.
Thank you. I know we're short on time, so I'll keep the speech short. And this is Senate Bill 71 is really a supportive bill for our school board members across the state. This will greatly enhance their knowledge base and the training that we want to provide to them to give them the support they need to be better school board members when it comes to school finance. This bill simply extends 2 hours of training in school finance, and we all know how important this is. It is the number one thing I think a school board addresses, and that trickles down to school classroom performance and all other things in the district. It begins with understanding the district's budget. This bill will require school board members to go beyond just the original 3 hours of school finance training and ask them to get 2 additional hours every 2 years, basically an updated training every year for an hour on school finance, expanding their knowledge to where they will be better prepared to serve their districts, their superintendents, and assist them with school finance. And I believe, as we've seen across the state, there are always issues with the lack of questions that may be asked by school board members and maybe their lack of just knowledge on what to ask. This training provides that foundational knowledge base for them. And that sums up. And I'm very glad to say that I worked with the Kentucky School Board Association, collaborated with them on this bill, and they are in support.
We have a motion and a second. Before we take a vote, are there any other questions? All right. Call the roll.
Senator Carroll. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Rawlings.
Aye.
Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Madam Chair, I'd like to briefly explain my aye vote.
Proceed.
I'm sorry.
Please proceed.
As I told you, Senator Dean, I strongly support this bill. I just want to make sure that when we do this training, that it does have some kind of academic rigor to it. You know, being a lawyer, I've gone through all kind of CLE experiences. Some you just check the box, and some presenters really get into the nuts and bolts of financing. You talk about accounting questions, accounting issues, how to read a balance sheet, and I would just hope as we go forward with this that these sessions really do have some rigor with regard to school finances and make sure people can read a balance sheet and the accounting terms that are associated therewith.
Absolutely.
Senator Tishner.
I briefly explain my vote. This is a great bill. It's a great complement to Senate Bill 3 in our efforts to assist our school boards and the general public with some transparency and education around school financing. Thank you.
Senator Williams.
Aye.
Senator Wilson.
Aye.
Senator Wise. Aye. Chair West.
Aye.
All right. The bill passes with a unanimous vote with favorable expression. We also have a title amendment that needs to be adopted. Do I have a motion to adopt?
Motion on the title amendment.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you so much. With that, we are adjourned 2 minutes past the hour.
Thank you.